Well, Utsav, thank you so much for joining us on WION. I really appreciate it. You are founder and chairman of Hindus for America First, and you've been actively working to engage Indian American voters across the United States, notably in battleground states. How have you been able to do that? And what are you hearing about the concerns of the Indian American community?
Yeah, so Indian Americans are very concerned about the economy. This is the number one issue. On average, they make about 119 to $123,000 a year annum, and they are in finance, IT, healthcare, technology, and they're just very concerned about the cost of living. It's ridiculously high. Ever since COVID, inflation's been up. Getting a mortgage is very tough. The costs are really high, and folks are just suffering right now. Everyone across the board. And the concern is that if there is a change in administration, say with Kamala Harris, there's going to be new tax hikes that are going to destroy their 401ks and stock. And folks don't want that. And they look to President Trump as somebody that is going to lower their taxes, make a very business friendly environment that will deliver for these wonderful communities. And that's why I think Indian Americans would be best suited under President Trump, his presidency, and more importantly, to the point, they should vote for him for that reason.
You talked about the economy. Can you talk a little more for our viewers that are international viewers, how the presidential candidates are addressing these economic concerns?
Yeah, so the candidates are proposing all kinds of policies. They talk about one candidate talks about eliminating the taxes on tips for restaurant workers. That's President Trump. Kamala Harris ended up stealing that policy. Very interesting. Kamala Harris candidate has spoken about regulating grocery prices and essentially going after price gouging, which is very silly because all these states and the union, practically all of them, have laws on the books against price gouging. We have candidate President Trump. He is proposing to actually eliminate, or he's considering to eliminate the income tax entirely in replace for tariffs. And the goal is to essentially make Americans have more disposable income so that they can start saving and planning for their futures. So there's a nice variety of policies, fiscal policies being proposed and offered. And it's very, very interesting because Indian Americans are starting to wonder, well, you know what, we could go for some change. We could go for a candidate that will do something different. And they look at Trump and they look at his very, very pro-business policies. He wants to cut the corporate tax rate tremendously. He wants to bring jobs to America, and he wants people to make in America. He wants to reduce taxes for companies that will build industries here, jobs here. And Indian Americans have been very much, involved in that process from the beginning. 1 to 1.5% of Americans are Indian origin, and they contribute about 6% of the total revenues of this wonderful country. And they are ready to go to work, and they are looking for a nice new president that is going to be supportive of their aspirations, goals, and dreams.
And can you talk about relations between India and the United States? There is this conception that ultimately it may not matter who occupies the White House because relations are so favorable at this point. Do you agree with that?
So what needs to be known is that Kamala Harris in September 2019 in Houston, Texas, was asked a question about the ongoing human rights situation in Indian Kashmir. And her response was very telling. She actually said, as commander in chief, that America leads with its values and that she would intervene in the Kashmir conflict against India to enforce these human rights issues. And so these words have never been denounced by her. She's never walked away from that. And people are very concerned about this because India is a nuclear power. And if America, a fellow nuclear power, gets into a conflict with India, that's going to be a disaster. And it's very telling because she used the phrase commander in chief, which signifies military authority. President Trump, on the other hand, always has believed from the get go that the internal affairs of India is its internal affairs. He does not want to solve the Kashmir conflict. It's not a conflict that he's interested in, unless India and Pakistan want to. He respects the Shimla Accord. Kamala Harris does not. This is something that needs to be discussed about. Under President Biden Harris, we've seen these Khalistani radicals that have essentially been given a lot of free rein. They've been platformed by this government. They were even consulted when Prime Minister Modi was visiting America. And that concerns Indian Americans who are facing rampant Hindu phobia and discrimination from these radical Khalistanis who are attacking them, destroying their mandirs, coming after their families. And they also don't like the fact, these Indian Americans don't like the fact that these Khalistanis are trying to subvert the Indo-US relationship, as we see in Canada, for example, between the Indians and the Canadians. President Trump is very much about relationship building. He wants to use trade as a way to build peace. He wants everyone to be wealthy and rich. He does not want political problems and ongoing conflicts. I think Trump is right for this community and the relationship between India and America.
My next question is regarding the Indian American community's influence in US politics. Obviously, it's growing. As you mentioned, we have nearly 4 million Indians in the US, 54% of whom identify as Hindus. Can you talk about your organization and why you decided to launch Hindus for America first?
Yeah, so Hindus for America First is a very strong, patriotic, right-wing, Republican, pro-Trump Hindu group. And we firmly believe that Hindus should have a voice in the Republican Party and in the Trump movement. And we are very concerned about what is going on with Hindus in America. And we seek to enfranchise them and put them in positions of leadership so that they can continue employing Americans, helping Americans, giving back to the community. And we know that President Trump has been a consistent advocate for the Hindu community. For example, in 1976, he helped ISKCON with one of their religious parades in New York City. In 2022, President Trump said that he would build a Hindu Holocaust memorial to acknowledge the pains and struggles of Hindu Americans. And so we want to align with President Trump and help him get the Hindu American votes that he's requiring, that he needs to essentially win the election. We're also very impressed with the fact that Vivek Ramaswamy, Tulsi Gabbard are some of the top name Hindu Americans who are on the leadership team of President Trump. And we see in President Trump a very stalwart, open-minded, progressive, who is very tolerant, very loving, very compassionate, very caring. Contrast that with Kamala Harris, who, when asked about her religious background, never mentions her Hindu heritage, cannot even tell you the last mandir she visited when she was younger. It's very disappointing. And we're wondering, why is Kamala Harris not talking about her Hindu heritage? Why does she seldomly bring up the fact that she is of Indian heritage? Why does she use terms like South Asian and brown when we know that the Indian civilization is a very great ancient civilization and these people are connected to the civilization? Why should one erase that identity? It's very bizarre. And President Trump actually recognizes and appreciates this identity. He is great friends with Prime Minister Modi. He loves Modi. And he wants to build a great relationship between the Indian American community and the government of India so that everyone can succeed and prosper.
And my final question is about the work that you've been doing on the ground. How receptive have the Indian American community been to your initiatives? And do you think that there are some concerns perhaps among the Indian American community that voting for the former president, which your organization obviously supports, might not be the best idea?
The Indian American community has been very receptive to our messaging. We talk about a lot of issues. Kamala Harris is on record for opposing colorblind admissions in the university system. So she does not value merit. She wants to privilege certain races over others. We think that goes against Indian American interests. She supports high taxes, which again goes against those hardworking entrepreneurs and doctors, engineers, lawyers. And we see that the community is very open-minded. They are very concerned about Kamala's hawkishness. She's been endorsed by Liz Cheney and neocon. People are sick of the wars. People are sick of the bloodshed. People want peace. They want to see the Minsk Accords come back in Ukraine and between Ukraine and Russia. They want to see the Abraham Accords come into full force in Israel and amongst various Gulf Arab countries. They want to see peace in Iran. They want to see love. They want to see the end of oppressive regimes without having to start World War III. And President Trump is best suited for this issue. And one more thing I'd like to share with your audience. There's a recurring thing that is coming up to all of our viewers. There are Hindus in Bangladesh right now that are facing an ongoing pogrom Kamala Harris, as vice president, has not said one single word. And depending on which scholar you ask, it is believed that Biden-Harris was responsible for destabilizing the government of Bangladesh that was led by Sheikh Hasina, that is now ran by Mohammed Yunus, a Clinton Foundation friend and ally. President Trump would not intervene in Bangladesh. He's not interested in starting conflicts and wars. And President Trump, I know, cares about the minorities of Bangladesh, the Hindus, the Christians, the Buddhists, and the Jews of Bangladesh. And he's very worried about what's going on. And I think that we might actually see some really good positive change under Trump's leadership, where the subcontinent will be stable and all of this internal destabilizing efforts will go away. And we're very optimistic. And the Indian American community looks to President Trump for that leadership, looks for President Trump's ability to keep stability in the stock market and in all parts of the world.